My topic this week was forensic science. Um, this was such a broad topic, and there's so many different types of forensic science that I did struggle to find a research. So I kind of tied in forensic science and chapter 2 from Brewer and Douglas, cognitive bias and legal decision making. And I found a chapter out of the psychology and sociology of wrongful convictions. It's chapter 7, and they focus and talk about confirmation biases in forensic science. This was published in 2018, and the pages we're going to be referencing go from 215 to page 245. The research question under investigation is, even if forensic examiners are isolated from such information, might confirmation bias manifest in other ways? So the importance of this question is to understand and determine if confirmation bias can still be formed even with limiting the amount of information an examiner is exposed to. And the importance of this and the findings will help with future protocols being put in place to try and practice best methods that will prevent confirmation bias in forensic science and handling with evidence and therefore the case closure of cases. So one of the research that they narrowed in on in this chapter was fingerprints and fingerprints analysis. So in this, the method was that an examiner was given two samples of prints, one from an unknown origin and one who belonged to the suspect. What they found with this was that there was some of them were predisposed that the samples were a match, even if they were not, because they had reason to believe the suspect was guilty. So their reason to believe that the suspect was guilty came from that the examiners assumed that investigators had a reason to believe the suspect was guilty because, quote, investigators do not select suspects or evidence at random, but only those they have some reason to think were connected to the crime. And we also found this in Brewer and Douglas. They refer back to it in the opposite way, that beliefs of innocence can lead fingerprints experts to judge fingerprint pairs that they had previously judged to be matches as non-matches. So this was being seen going both ways just because of the confirmation bias. These are not findings. These are just some things that, as I was reading throughout this module and the chapter 7 and chapter 2, just some things that I think would be something to think about. Examiners may become biased if an investigator is motivating for the evidence to be retested. So if you have an examiner saying no, that these are not a match, and then an investigator keeps pushing like retest it, that examiner might believe that, okay, this investigator has reason to be, pretty positive that this suspect is guilty, so yes, now these are a match. Or no, they are a match and they want me to keep retesting, so no, they're not. They don't match. The samples don't. This made me think back to the module on child witnesses and how during a forensic interview with child witnesses, if a child states that they don't know the answer or they are unsure, it's best to just take that answer as is and move on. It was found that like if you keep referring back to that and keep asking them and pressing them in a way, that the answer of the child will change just because they think that's what the adult wants to hear. So that kind of made me think back to this. And then a study by Charlton, Fraser, McKenzie, and Dror in 2010 brought attention that examiners may be in strong desires to close cases and to be helpful and provide information that will convict a criminal. So this wanting to, be helpful and close these cases because they have reason to believe that this suspect is guilty, this is all going to affect their confirmation bias and their forensic examining. So what they recommended was that the use of sequential unmasking protocols and evidence lineups should be used for forensic examinations. Sequential unmasking protocols were said to regulate the flow of information to examiners. So this would basically put in rules and protocols and instructions on what information should be allowed to be relayed to the examiners and what information shall not. And then evidence lineups are to anonymize a suspect sample so as to counteract any prevailing expectation of guilt. This made me think of suspect lineups and the use of fillers, and I think that this actually would be a very good way to try to eliminate the confirmation bias. And then this is just a slide that relates how the information from the book and the book that I chose for this project and then the book that is assigned for reading in the class kind of relate to each other, and they just talk about the cognitive biases and how there's tendencies to want to close cases and interpret the information in a belief consistent fashion, and how forensic examiners, if there's belief that a suspect is guilty, then this can be subjective to how they interpret the evidence.